Andrew Franklin, founder and managing director of Profile Books. Welcome to the London Book Fair podcast. Now, it's 16 years since you departed Penguin and set up Profile. I think you've made a profit in pretty much every year since, perhaps not the first one, and your last figures were up 23%. Does that tell us something about independent publishing generally?
I think independent publishing is the same as large group publishing. There are publishers who are profitable and there are publishers who are less profitable. With the big groups, some of them, Random House and Penguin, are consistently highly profitable, and Hachette does quite well, and then others, HarperCollins, keep their figures a secret and are probably rather less good. And the same is true with independent publishers. Some are consistently profitable and some, because of their costs or because of the books they choose to publish or the way they do things, are less profitable. So does it tell us anything generally about the independent publishing sector? Probably not a huge amount, except that things are quite good in independent publishing and it's not, the end of the world is not nigh.
You've weathered the recession well. Is that because independents, by their nature, can be more fleet-footed, they're less encumbered by structure and so on?
We have this little motto, which is we have to do three things. We have to publish great books, we have to run a good business, and we have to have fun. And so long as we do that, I think we'll be okay. And I think that's true of all publishers, actually. It's got to be fun. There must be books that you believe in, whatever sort of books you publish. And of course you have to run a good business or you go out of business. It was Stanley Unwin, the man who published Tolkien, who first said that. The first duty of every publisher to their author is to remain solvent.
You recently made an acquisition, ironically announced on the day the Penguin merger was announced, Tyndall Street Press, which will sit alongside Serpent's Tail. How's it bedding in?
I hate the word profile group, and the last person who talked about the profile group, if you dredge the River Thames underneath Blackfriars Bridge, you might find them with their feet in concrete. But to answer the question, the Tyndall Street Press is that's all been very smooth. It was a very small operation, and it's our second company that we've acquired in the third list, because we acquired Serpent's Tail in 2007, and before that we'd acquired the HarperCollins business list. In each case, we have been approached. The publisher has, or in the case of HarperCollins, a broker approached us and asked us if we would like to make the acquisition, and we are regularly approached. And if there is the right acquisition, yes, we would definitely want to make it, but we're not in the business of trying to merge with other publishers in order to become the largest conglomerate on earth, and we're never going to have a company jet and all those things. So it's not a matter of scale, it is because it seemed the best possible solution for Tyndall Street Press to where they were for us to take over their publishing. And there's some great authors there that we're really pleased to be publishing.
Now, you are, of course, an old Penguin hand. You were there in the glory days of Peter Mayer. Now the dust has settled a little bit. What do you think of the Penguin-Berthelsen merger? I
do not think the dust has settled on the Penguin merger. It hasn't even begun yet. The regulatory approval process is only just beginning. So none of the things that people predict, either good or bad, have even begun to happen. I'm not aware that there have been any general meetings of staff, that there have been any discussions. I remain absolutely convinced that slowly over time, but faster if we're in difficult times, consolidation will take place. And the first things will be the things that people in publishing mind about less than perhaps they should. But the warehouses will definitely be consolidated. It will be essential that they consolidate their finance departments, because nobody can run a business with two separate different finance systems. In order to know how the business is going, you have to have one finance department. So then I'll combine the royalty departments. So then I'll combine the contracts departments, because you can't have combined royalties if you don't have combined contracts, and you can't have combined finance if you don't have... And so it will spread gradually. And I'm not saying they'll all end up in the same building, and I'm not saying they will close any imprints, and I'm not saying there will be any editorial redundancies, though I'm sure that each of those things will be separately considered by the management over the next decade, but there will be an inevitable process of homogenisation which takes place in every large company.
Do you buy the idea, which a lot of people are claiming, that it was actually necessary in terms of scale so they could face down Amazon?
Do I buy the fact that the Lib Dems had to get into bed with the Conservatives and immediately hand over all their principles and betray every promise that they'd made in their manifestos? No, it's a complete pack of lies. They did it as a piece of rank opportunism. I'm not saying that people at Penguin and Bertelsmann are rank opportunism, but it absolutely wasn't necessary. And Penguin, an incredibly strong company. The last accounts it published, £1 billion turnover, £100 million profit. That is a fantastic business by any sector. If they felt they needed to be bigger to stand up to the external pressures that publishers now face, they could have bought a smaller and weaker company and incorporated into Penguin rather than merging with Berthelsen. And Berthelsen, of course, could have done the same thing. No, of course it wasn't necessary.
Do you think it'll go through the various competition commissions here and in Europe and in the States?
I think we know that the competition countries here are supine and don't worry about these things at all. They didn't lift a finger when a lot of publishers objected to the takeover of Oticas by Waterstones. Nothing happened when Amazon bought Book Depository, and you see it right across the sectors. Nothing was done. Huge public outrage. Penguin seems to me in many ways a company like Cadbury's. It was born of extraordinarily high principles. It's always sustained very high ideals. It was a great employer and it was an iconic British brand. And if nothing was done about Cadbury's, and Bertelsmann is a good owner and a good company, whereas Kraft was a truly rapacious and horrible company. Which didn't allow unions in its factories. Really terrible company. If nobody could lift a finger to prevent that happen, of course it'll happen. Of course it'll go through. Maybe they'll be made to shed some little offshoots here and there.
Whether or not it goes through, do you think we've entered into a new period of instability? We'll see more mergers taking place?
Definitely there will be other mergers now. There've already been rumours of HarperCollins trying to buy Simon & Schuster. Now, I don't think that'll happen. I think it's more likely that Hachette will want to buy either of the other two. That's my prediction. And there'll definitely be further consolidation.
Now, you've just come back from the Istanbul Book Fair, visit organised by the London Book Fair. Were you able to do business, or was it sort of glad handing and making contact sort of visit?
The Istanbul Book Fair is incredibly impressive. Istanbul is a city of 18 million people, and a very large number of them seem to go to the book fair. It's way out in the suburbs. It'd be rather like having the London Book Fair somewhere like Slough. It's really a long way from the centre, but because it's such a huge city, you just go through miles and miles of traffic jams in the city. So a lot of people have to come a long way to get there, but it's both a professional fair and there was a good spread of international publishers, particularly from Eastern Europe, of course. The Turks do a great deal of business with Slovenian and Hungarian and Romanian and Czech, all of those publishers. But there were German, French, Italian, and a good contingent of British publishers and a couple of Americans. But what was wonderful to see is it's both a professional fair and it's also a fair open to the public, and there were huge numbers of people buying fantastic numbers of books, and it was exhilarating to see these stands crowded around by people. And I was told that during the week it's even more crowded because huge numbers of school groups come in and buy from the stands, and the books were discounted a bit, but not massively, but people were buying large numbers, and the publishers had terrific displays of their new books and their best-selling titles and their most important authors, and there were signings and readings, and it was great because it just was packed with people who were serious about books.
Do you think Turkey is a country that publishers in Britain and elsewhere will be able to do business with, and they'll be able to?
There are three sorts of business we can do. It's a good place to be selling English books. English is the second language. There's a great thirst for English, and all of the bookshops that I went into had good export sections. There's great airport shops, so there's definitely more export of English books. There's potential there because it's this fast-growing market, big population, 80 million people. And secondly, there's rights business both into Turkish, very active, lively publishing scene. They publish very fast, a lot of translation going on, great thirst for British books, and then there's Turkish books to acquire and publish. And everybody obviously knows Orhan Pamuk, published very successfully by Faber, and then the best-known commercial writer is probably Elif Shafak, who's published by Penguin now.
Finally, it's almost Christmas. How are sales for Profile? How are sales for the independents generally?
Well, I think it remains jolly difficult for everybody, really. This is not a great Christmas to be in retailing, and it's not a great Christmas to be a physical bookseller against the online retailers, and it's even tougher for the independents. But I think there's some great book selling going on. Just around the corner from our office, Clerkenwell Tales has terrific displays, and he works incredibly hard, and I think he's doing okay. And I think books are beginning to move. As everybody says, more than ever, how your books look and how you display a market them matters more than ever. And if you've got good books and you sell them well, you're going to be okay. Publishing is not over, it really isn't.
Any predictions for 2013?
I think 2013 will be all right. I think the recession will lift a little bit, so I think there'll be a little bit of boost into the retail economy. I wish I could predict what is going to be the next big thing. I'm sure that soft porn is coming to the end of its life. I certainly hope that it is. So I don't have any predictions about what it will be. So I think it could be all right again, really. I think it could be quite a tough year for literary agents, but I think it could be quite a good year for publishers.
Andrew Franklin, thank you very much.